You're gambling with World War III.
You're probably wondering how Zelensky ended up in this situation. Most of you have seen this video from the White House on February 28, 2025. US President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance in a heated exchange with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. So why were the leaders meeting in the first place? Because the US wants something Ukraine has a lot of, and it wants a lot of it. What's that, you'd ask? Critical minerals. You see, the two nations were supposed to sign a deal, but negotiations didn't go as planned. So what's the deal with this deal? What does it entail? And why is it important? On February 12th, the US, Ukraine's largest arms supplier throughout Kiev's three-year war with Russia, presented a peace deal granting the US 50% of Ukraine's mineral revenue, including that of uranium and lithium. In return, the US said it would help finance Ukraine's post-war reconstruction through a jointly owned reconstruction investment fund, with ownership and management details to be ironed out in a future agreement. The influx of US investment and expertise would revive Ukraine's mining sector, create jobs, and provide much-needed revenue for the war-gripped country's severely strained economy. However, Zelensky had been hesitant to sign the deal, consistently seeking security assurances from the US against Russia in exchange for handing over any mineral rights. In the initial deal, Trump demanded $500 billion in minerals as compensation for US investment and military aid, a figure Zelensky disputed, claiming the proposed US package was no more than $200 billion. The deal was revised and the latest version no longer specified any amounts. Tensions between the two leaders started to mount even before they sat down to discuss the deal. Prior to the meeting, Trump had called Zelensky a dictator who started the war. Zelensky fired back, accusing Trump of parroting Russian disinformation. Given Washington's historical friction with Moscow, you'd expect the US to side with Ukraine against Russia, but that's not how things went down. To make matters worse, on February 16, Trump sent a delegation to Saudi Arabia for Russo-Ukraine peace talks without inviting Ukraine to the table. This move made both Ukraine and the EU just a little uneasy. So, why are these resources such a big deal? Well, for Washington, it's about reducing dependency on US arch-rival China, which controls 75% of the world's rare earth minerals, and with Beijing recently restricting exports of some key minerals to the US, Washington is desperate for alternatives. For Ukraine, which sits on an estimated 5% of the world's critical raw materials, a deal with the US could be a game changer as far as its economy goes, if it can actually retain control of its mineral reserves. The problem is that a large portion of these minerals, worth an estimated $350 billion, are located in territories currently occupied by Russia. Speaking of Russia, Putin has been quick to seize the opportunity. He's now offering Washington access to mining rare minerals in Russia's new territories, meaning the territories it seized from Ukraine during the war. Despite all the tension, Zelensky has been clear. He's ready to bury the hatchet with Trump and sign the deal. However, in the wake of the Oval Office row, Trump announced the suspension of all military aid to Ukraine as of March 4, 2025.
You're gambling with World War III.
And that brings us back to that now historic White House meeting on February 28, when the world thought it would witness a milestone agreement leading to the end of the Russo-Ukraine war, but instead witnessed one of the greatest diplomatic failures ever seen on air between global leaders.
This war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days. This is something maybe less.